Ghost dug the same hole in the backyard for 11 days straight. Same spot, every single day, no matter how many times they filled it back in. Nobody knew there was an old well buried 3 feet under that exact patch of grass, except him. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another moving story like this one. And write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Jake and Beth bought the house in early spring, an older property, big backyard, the kind of place they'd wanted since Ellie was born. Ghost came with them from the old apartment. Doberman, sleek, black and rust, calm around people, better trained than most dogs twice his age. Doberman Pinschers were originally bred in Germany in the 1890s as personal protection dogs, prized for a sense of hearing far sharper than most breeds, sensitive enough to pick up vibrations and low-frequency sounds humans can't register at all, including the kind of subtle shifts that happen underground long before they ever reach the surface. The yard had one strange patch of grass near the old oak tree, slightly sunken, slightly greener than the rest. Nobody thought anything of it. Ghost did. The first time he dug there, Jake assumed it was a squirrel. Filled the hole back in, patted the dirt down. The next morning, same spot, dug again. Deeper this time. Ghost, no, Beth said, pulling him away. Bad dog. He didn't stop. Every day for a week, that same 6-inch patch of grass, dug up and refilled, dug up again, like something under there wouldn't leave him alone. Write yes if you already have a feeling about where this is going. By day 4, Beth noticed something else. Ghost had started avoiding that whole side of the yard when it rained, walking a wide half-circle around the sunken patch even when he wasn't digging, ears low, tail stiff. Like the ground itself smelled wrong to him after a storm. He does it every time it rains, she told Jake. Not just the digging thing. He won't even walk near it when it's wet out. Jake didn't think much of it. Dogs had strange habits. His last dog used to hide during thunder. By day 6, the local mail carrier mentioned it too, laughing as she handed over a package. Your dog's been standing guard over that one patch of grass every time I come by. Same spot near the tree. Never seen a dog so committed to a hole. By day 8, Ellie, barely 2, blonde curls, always in the same yellow overalls she refused to take off, started toddling toward the spot herself, drawn by the loose dirt like it was a sandbox. Ghost got there first every time. Not growling, just standing over the hole, blocking her path with his body, herding her gently back toward the porch. He's being weird about that one spot, Jake told his brother, who'd come by to help hang shelves that weekend. Digs it up every single day. Won't let Ellie anywhere near it. Won't even walk over there when it rains. His brother laughed, watching Ghost pace another slow circle around the sunken patch. You've got a dog with main character syndrome. He's decided that's his territory for no reason. You need to correct that before he starts thinking the whole yard's his to control. Jake felt the same pull his brother did. That evening, frustrated after refilling the hole for the 11th time, he clipped Ghost's leash tighter than usual and walked him firmly to the shed. You're staying in here tonight. Let the grass grow back. Ghost sat in the doorway. Wouldn't go further in, ears back, eyes fixed past Jake, toward that one patch of ground under the oak tree. Jake stood there a long moment, torn, his brother's words, main character syndrome, you need to correct that, still sitting in his chest. Then he unclipped the leash. He never forgot that he almost didn't. 3 days later, a landscaper came to quote a new fence line. He walked the property, stopped near the oak tree, and tapped his boot against that same sunken patch of grass. It sounded hollow. You know what's under here? He asked, crouching down. Jake shook his head. No idea. Realtor never mentioned anything. Older properties out this way, sometimes there's an old well down there. Capped off decades ago, sometimes not capped well. Ground can look solid for years, then a wet spring finally gets in. He tapped it again. I'd get someone out to check this before it gets worse. Jake meant to call someone that week. Then work got busy, and the number sat forgotten on a sticky note on the fridge. The following Tuesday, a heavier rain came through overnight. By morning, the sunken patch near the oak tree had spread slightly wider than before, barely noticeable unless you were looking, a few extra inches of soft, dark ground creeping outward from the center. Ghost noticed. He stood at the kitchen window that whole morning, watching the yard through the rain, refusing his breakfast for the first time since they'd moved in. "He still won't eat," Beth said, frowning at his untouched bowl. "It's been an hour." It rained for 4 straight days that week. Hard, steady, the kind of rain that soaks all the way down. Saturday morning, the sun finally came back out. Ellie ran into the yard the second the door opened, chasing a ball Jake had tossed without thinking, straight toward the oak tree. Straight toward the sunken patch of grass, soft now, saturated, darker than it had been all week, whiter than any of them had noticed. Ghost was already moving. He hit Ellie from the side, full body, knocking her sideways into the grass a good 4 feet from the ball, from the tree, from the spot that had swallowed 11 days of his own digging. The ground where she'd been running gave way half a second later, not violently, just a slow, wet collapse. Grass and dirt folding downward into a hole nearly 2 feet across, the old well finally giving in after who knows how many decades underneath. Ellie was crying from the fall, startled, unhurt. Ghost stood over her, breathing hard, one paw planted right at the crumbling edge of the new hole, like he was still deciding whether the ground could be trusted at all. Jake reached them seconds later, scooping Ellie up, staring down into the dark opening where solid earth had been the day before. Beth came running from the kitchen. "What happened? Oh my God." The county inspector who came out that afternoon didn't mince words. "Old dug well. No cap on record. Given how wet it's been, I'm honestly surprised it held as long as it did. Another storm or two, this whole section could have gone." Jake stood there staring at the hole, then at Ghost, then at his daughter safe in his arms. 11 days of digging that same 6 inches of ground. The wide circles every time it rained. The morning he wouldn't touch his food, watching the yard through the window like he already knew what the rain was doing underneath. His brother's voice, main character syndrome, you need to correct that. Ghost hadn't been digging out of stubbornness. He'd been hearing something none of them could. The hollow echo under his own paws. The shift of unstable ground long before it ever showed on the surface. Jake sat down right there in the wet grass beside him, not for show, nobody watching but Beth and Ellie. He didn't grab Ghost's collar. Just rested a hand flat against his side, feeling him still breathing hard. "I almost locked you in the shed for this," he said quietly. 11 days, and I almost stopped listening on the 12th. Ghost leaned into his hand, tail low, eyes still flicking toward the hole every few seconds, like old habits didn't disappear just because the ground had finally proven him right. Ellie squirmed down from Beth's arms, walked over in her yellow overalls, and sat down hard in the grass next to Ghost, patting his side with one small hand. "Good hole," she said seriously, like he'd been digging for treasure the whole time. Jake laughed despite himself, some of the tension finally breaking. Ghost huffed once, almost like a laugh of his own, and rested his head against Ellie's lap. They filled the well in properly the next week, a real cap, concrete, inspected twice. Ghost never dug there again. He didn't need to anymore. Do you think Ghost heard something under that ground the very first day he started digging? Right, yes, if you believe a dog can sense danger buried where no human would ever think to look. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thanks for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.